Hey, welcome back into today's video. It's what you've all been waiting for. Dana Hare, aka many names, and we'll get into that. A degenerate TikTok mother, alleged scammer. CPS has been called, and you need to keep your children away from this person. Their content is dangerous. They keep trying to run, they keep trying to change their name. We won't let them. We'll keep bringing them up, and it's gotten a lot worse. In today's episode of Exploring Locales, TikTok Mom Edition. If you're unfamiliar, it's Me Saturn is the new TikTok name. They have decided to change their name to Saturn. We'll get into that. Currently have over 96.5 thousand followers, 868.1 thousand likes. They also have another channel called It's the House of Saturn with significantly less followers, saying they post festival, rave, concert, and harm reduction content. We're going to get into that because it's less than harm reduction and more of harm enabling. Now, if you guys don't know, the majority of their content is polyamory related. They have changed their name a lot of times. It started with It's Sinna Bunny. Currently, it's Hey, It's Me Saturn. They've got an account called Festival Suit Heart. They also have an account called Glutton for Punishment Crafts. This is a dangerous person with dangerous ideas who attempts to change their identity every time they're exposed. They also change their social identity labels whenever it's convenient to weaponize. I've documented and proven that this person tends to lie and does not make genuine expressions of identity. If you haven't seen the first video I did on this, I highly suggest that you watch it. I released it about 5 months ago. It's Sinna Bunny, the horrific story behind TikTok's most degenerate mother. In a follow-up video with more evidence. Watch it after this video. This person has extremely harmful rhetoric. She uses her child as rage bait and is alleged to believe that children can consent to things, has alleged to have hurt many people, including ex-partners, while exploiting the communities she attempts to infiltrate. By the way, they're out there on Tinder, so be careful. In some sort of Facebook dating group, there was an anonymous participant that posted, Saturn, Dana from Nashville. If you would like to see why they're so bad, they neglect their child, stalk their exes, and film not good content while their child is home. One person saying, I matched with them. Unmatch. Another, run, at least you saw this. Another saying, they're legit crazy. Denies doing illegal substances, but there is plenty of evidence they do, and around their daughter. Now, this is one of many reasons why I decided to make this second deep dive on this topic, because they're out there and they're trying to get you. So this is a clip from a viral video. It had over 21.4 million views at the time, and it was about, well, just read the caption. My child has 6 adult caretakers. She was using her daughter in clickbaity ways to promote polyamorous relationships. And if you don't know what that is, it's the practice or desire for romantic relationships with more than one partner at the same time, with the informed consent of all partners involved. Obviously, this is not okay to promote alongside your daughter, even if it was monogamy. It's still not something that you would promote alongside a child. So CPS was involved. A clip from a first video. She said, so let's clear this up. CPS came to my house once in December 2023 after the We Are Polyamorous, My Kids Have 6 Adult Caretakers video went mega viral in the millions. And they said they were called out to our home and questioned if 4 couples, 8 adults living in the home. So that's not good, and I wanted to take a second to thank everybody that helped with this video, everybody that's reached out, you know who you were. It's a lot of people, more than I can name. Keeping tabs on this person and letting me know the goings on. And again, thank you to each and every one of you. I really appreciate it. Let's keep calling people like this out. Just the other day, she posts saying, if you can respect my pronouns, they, them, by the way, you can respect my name. A real name isn't what's on a government form. And in her case, it's not just what she chooses to be called, it's what she chooses to be called anytime she decides to change the name whenever she wants at any given time. She goes on to say, it's not your real name unless it's on your ID. Okay, try saying that to a trans person and see how fast you get corrected. And while you're at it, telling me I don't look trans or non-binary enough to change my name, that's just disrespectful. You don't have to be trans to claim your own name. Anyone can decide what they want to be called. Literally, seeing a cis woman right now who chose her own name. So yeah, my name is Saturn. Respect it. Hashtag changing my name. One alleged trans person said this. The new name is probably so they can complain that people are dead naming them. Same as crying transphobia for any criticism. They wouldn't last a day having to face what actual trans people face. Which is ironic because that's exactly what she decided to do. Here you can see somebody saying, why do you keep changing your name on here? Your name is Dana, right? They say. My name is Saturn now. Please don't refer to my dead name. Thank you, trans flag. In fact, the name changes were so frequent that she dead named herself just yesterday.
As always, my name is Dana. Thank you so much for listening to me yap. If you see me at a festival this summer, come say hi. Let's trade candy. I love you so much. Have a very plur day, and I'll see you next time.
The user says on the It's the House of Saturn account, there's a post about harm reduction from 2 days ago that literally ends with, "As always, my name is Dana." If I was a new viewer, I would be so confused, especially with their new pinned video on Maine demanding not to be dead named and to never bring up the old name. Babe, you're already dead naming yourself. Can't even rebrand successfully. Another user saying, honestly, she has to be doing it on purpose at this point. The amount of times she refers to herself as girl. Another saying, and for these reasons, I will never believe that you are a true non-binary person or a trans person. You constantly misgender yourself and still refer to yourself by your own so-called dead name. You constantly dress feminine and refer to yourself as girl. Just be who you are instead of trying to be trendy. And here's the issue, even if she didn't dead name herself. Words have meaning. They have to point to something. They're descriptors. For example, if I say the label tree, you know what I'm talking about. If I said the label cat, it's important so we know what we're talking about. So this is the first fundamental law of logic called the law of identity. It means that words descriptively point to a thing, so we know what we're talking about, so we don't miscommunicate or talk past each other and have just communication break down and corrode from the inside. Words can have multiple meanings depending on categories. For example, like biological or social. Especially important in cases where the person is harmful and you need to keep your children away from their content. These people need to be identified. But this person is changing and hiding behind socially constructed labels and ideologies. In fact, I would call them a weaponization tourist. Someone who seeks out fringe groups and categories so that they can take them and use them as a shield. In another rebrand where it's Saturn Dana Christine Hare, user says this constant renaming and rebranding reminds me of a friend who is always refusing medication, which in turn makes her go into psychosis. Every time she does, she abandons her birth name and goes by the new one. Dana's recent changes are giving me that vibe. I'm not qualified to diagnose. I'm not an expert, just speculating. Another user saying, I do wonder if this is also to combat the Dana is not really trans accusations, which in that case is so insanely nuts that they would even be doing this just to respond to the haters and not out of their own will to feel more comfortable with their identity. And as someone who is transgender, I don't care what they identify as. Truth is, I don't know what's going on in their brain. But the sole concept of doing things like this, changing your name just to prove a point and to own the haters and to silence Reddit snark is so nutcase. I want to be hopeful and think that they're actually doing this because they are in a process of transitioning, but knowing their history with attention-seeking, snark correspondence, and baiting, I cannot be too hopeful. Crying face emoji. Dana does have a pinned comment going over their name change, and there's some logic to it we need to discuss.
I go by the name Saturn in my real life. I go by the name Saturn online. In my adult work, that is my name, period. If you knew what my name was prior, I no longer go by that. I would not like to be called that. And it is only my name legally, and that is only until I can get it changed, and I will be getting it changed. So yeah, I'm changing my name to Saturn, both socially and legally, and I kind of want to tell you about it and how it came together and how I picked the name Saturn. As a non-binary person, I have always questioned my name, and I even questioned my name before I realized I was a non-binary person, and that's because my parents didn't agree on a name for me, and my mom couldn't get my dad to agree to like anything, and so she just finally was just like, okay, whatever, and let my dad pick out a name. And he named me after an ex-girlfriend, and also because the same name was the company of a car company that like made rear ends for car parts.
I think I'm the only one that's pointed out thus far that Saturn is also the name of a car company. Saturn was a division of General Motors that built cars from 1990 to 2010, known for their innovative features like dent-resistant plastics and body panels, and early models, and a unique no-haggle pricing strategy. Its popular models included S-Series Ion, Aura, Vue, and the Sky Roadster. Saturn was eventually closed after the Penske Corporation acquisition failed, leading to a discontinuation of new models. But used Saturn vehicles are still available. She also goes on to talk about her emancipation from her parents, but there are some inconsistencies.
I have been emancipated legally from my dad since I was like 12 years old. So I've always felt distance in the name that I was given at birth because it felt like it was given to me by my dad and I do not have a relationship with him.
One user points out the clear contradiction that is the characteristic of this human being. You legally can't emancipate yourself from one parent, but okay. Dana says, I was legally emancipated from both of them. I just still lived with my mother and had a relationship with her. It was the only way to ensure I could speak for myself and choose not to see my dad in any way, such as custody, visitation. My mom and stepdad became my legal guardians, but not my parents, if that makes sense. But okay. User says legal guardianship is the opposite of emancipation. Let's see what emancipation is. Emancipation is the legal process that grants a minor some or all the rights and responsibilities of an adult before reaching the age of majority, typically 18. It releases a minor from the custody and control of their parents or guardians, making them legally independent and responsible for their own housing, finances, and decisions. Emancipation can occur through court order, marriage, or sometimes automatically by law depending on the jurisdiction. Can you have a legal guardian and be emancipated? Let's find out. No, you generally cannot be emancipated and also have legal guardians, because emancipation legally separates a minor from their parents or legal guardians, making them an adult in the eyes of the law and ending the guardianship relationship. The very definition of emancipation means the minor is no longer under the control and responsibility of a legal guardian. Dana says, while emancipation typically removes parental control, a guardian can still be appointed in certain situations. Limited or partial emancipation is a thing. Some states allow a judge to grant emancipation for specific purposes like medical decisions or finances. Are you here to challenge a small detail of the whole video that isn't even about emancipation for funsies, or like, what's your deal? They said guardianship and parental rights aren't the same thing. Yes, I'm willing to check you on the consistency of your story because you, again, are a proven liar. As far as partial or limited emancipation, some states allow partial emancipation, but it is rare and very specific. For example, emancipation only to make medical decisions or manage certain finances. Even then, a guardian would need to be appointed to take over custody, because that defeats the purpose of emancipation. Instead, a judge might just terminate one parent's custody or visitation rights. Now, while it's possible, it's extremely rare, and I think there's only like 3 states in the United States where that can be a thing, but people online use emancipated very loosely as a term, and if they were legally free of one parent's control, that doesn't mean that they were fully emancipated. So, again, can't be 100% proven, but it does seem strange. Stranger, her reason for the name change.
Probably about a year ago, I thought about changing my old SW name to Saturn, and I was like, no, like, I have a whole brand built, like, I'm not gonna do that. But I like continuously felt really pulled to the name Saturn, and I just didn't know why. And then I was just thinking about it. I like consistently think about this name, and I realized, oh, I think I want it to just be my name.
Did you continuously think about changing it to all the other names as well? Because I feel like this is cope after being exposed multiple times.
I am legally changing my name to Saturn. I am also legally changing my last name. I will not be publicly telling people what I am changing my last name to for my own safety and the safety of my child. I am changing my child's last name as well. We will have the same last name. All I'm gonna say is I'm not going back to my maiden name, and yeah, that's it. My daughter and I picked out our new last name together. The last name we're going by is actually my daughter's decision. She picked it out, and I think it's beautiful. And I helped her, of course. I gave her like some ideas, some options. We looked things up. But the last name that we are going by, my daughter picked out, and that feels incredible to me. So we will be changing our last names legally.
One user says, genuine question. What if Tiny Human decides to change their name? Why get a tattoo of a name when you yourself know they can change their identity? She said, I actually originally wanted her name tattooed on my face, but then took this into consideration. I didn't want to cover up or remove the face tattoo. My chest tattoo was very easily able to be covered if she wanted to do so. I wouldn't want to keep a tattoo of a dead name if that were to happen. So I think it's going to be getting pretty expensive to keep doing tattoo cover-ups over names over time. But I think there's something else that's really going on here. Let's look. One user says, a trans person's perspective on the Dana. I cannot be effed to write a full thing about this, but Dana, I'm not calling you effing Saturn. You make a mockery of the trans people, and you have done nothing to transition. And now you're using your new name, Saturn, as a way to paint people who aren't calling you that as transphobic. You call yourself a woman constantly, have tattoos calling yourself princess, don't want a DICK for the purposes of gender dysphoria, and only so you can be with more chicks, because you're jealous Eli gets to, and you will never take any steps to transition and just love the trend of it. You want to be trans, which is not how it effing works. Just be a woman and be okay with it. I'm not calling you Saturn, even though you probably do have your own gravitational. There was another anecdote from a non-binary person. The name change feels more like a manic decision than a genuine change. I'm not going to speculate that they're not trans because that's not my place to do so, even though I'm non-binary myself. I'm not saying they're not actually trans, but it seems like they've been spiraling and are now trying to form a new personality or identity for themselves. We know they were given this new name at Deep Tropics 8 days ago, and they're already saying they're legally changing their name to it. That's simply just not enough time. And you know, I think it is important to say that. I don't think I showed that clip, but she explained that the name was, just watch this.
I was drinking, so I was not a sober person, and I told myself that I wanted to try out the name one day sober and one day not sober, so I could really get a feel for the name as a whole. So then day 2, we went to the festival and I stayed sober from everything the entire day, and I was feeling really good about my name. Like, I was already like, should I change my Facebook name tonight to Saturn? Like, it already clicked that it was like really my name. Like, I was feeling really good about it.
So that's not good. This feels like somebody could set her down and have a talking to and say, hey, that name is just not going to work, and it could switch her mind up so easy. Listen, the subjective mind is not it's a lens that you filter reality on. The mind is a tool to use. Often wrong, okay? You do not want to make decisions on choices that you make in the moment. Okay, some choices need to be deliberated on for a while. But this video is about to get a lot worse. But before we go forward, if you're enjoying this content and you want to see more like it and watch me call out individuals that have terrible worldviews like this one, consider subscribing, smashing the subscribe button and the like button, and why don't you put a couple positivity turtles in the comment section below. That's right. I'd like to see walls and walls of green. Thank you very much, Rep Squad, Best Squad. Here again about the dead naming, but this time with a twist. Responding in the comments, please don't call me by my dead name. I'm strictly going by Saturn now. And are you running around the internet lecturing every single person who mentions an ex, posts about an ex, or shares an old pic with an ex about consent? Or is it just me you've decided to play morality police for? Well, she's definitely not morality police. Because let's be real, people talk about their exes online all the time. If you genuinely believe that every single one of those posts is a violation on the level of leaking someone's inappropriate images, then you're not actually protecting consent. You're diluting the meaning of it. It's interesting that she's the one that's talking about diluting the meaning of words, okay? Okay, but sit with me in silence on that one. There's a huge difference between sharing a fully clothed photo of me in the Olive Garden with my ex-boyfriend from years ago in a silly trend and exposing someone's intimate downstairs area and content. Acting like they're equal doesn't highlight consent, it cheapens real violations. And let's be honest, you're only upset because I shared about 1 or 2 specific exes that you're in an angry mob with. If I redacted them from this, you wouldn't give a blank. So you try to grab and latch on to any moral high ground that you think that you can have, huh? Well, do you remember the thing you did to your ex? Let's look at that. In the previous video, Sinna Bunny, the horrific story of TikTok's most degenerate mom. One hater posts on Reddit, stop profiting off your exes, Dana. Gabby previously requested you to remove all videos of them on OF and MF, and she had asked you repeatedly and also report you repeatedly to get these videos down. It is absolutely abhorrent that you're still marketing off to someone who doesn't consent to being shared anymore. Gabby is out of SW industry. They wish not to have their bodies shared amongst people now. This is genuinely one of the lowest things, and as far as I'm concerned, Nani also does not associate themselves with you anymore. Stop sharing the corn you made with people who don't associate with you anymore just because they're more attractive than you are. That's right, she was profiting off her exes in the way that she's trying to moral police that you shouldn't do. But it gets worse. Check this out. Dana says, I took down all my videos with my ex from when I was in a throuple. But if you would like to buy them, I can send them to you in a folder for $60. I also took down all the videos with my former submissive Nani. And if you would like to buy a bundle of those, it's also $60. If you'd like to buy both bundles, it's $100 sale. Save $20 when you buy both. Lord almighty. And her response to this also appeared to be illogical. Dana posted on her OF, it looks like, "Hi, I was previously in the past 2 months offering sales of content no longer publicly available on this site, as I was operating off the knowledge that I was allowed to sell it PPV offsite, as long as it wasn't posted on site." So somebody went to her and said they no longer want her selling the content on her site, and she assumed that meant she could sell it off-site. That's what she's saying. Today it was brought to my attention that the consent involved in this selling of old content among all parties involved has changed. The end of an era! Sorry to disappoint, but if you'd like to see old content that is no longer available here on this account, it is just retired and no longer available for sale. I will personally be deleting content from my own hard drive out of respect for the people involved that have retired from SW and changed their consent. You will no longer be able to access content of me with people whom are ex-friends or ex-partners out of respect for them. And as respect for my personal mental health space, thank you for understanding. One hater alleging, once again, only doing the right thing because they were blasted publicly online, not because it was just the right thing to do. Another alleging, yep, she's literally only doing this because she got caught. She had no issue with it when G and N repeatedly told her they weren't comfortable anymore, and had no issue when she thought she could sneakily make a quick buck through a DM. I have no respect for Dana, for real. Well, if you thought that wasn't good, this is how hypocritical this actually was. Here she's saying, as for Nani, I have already removed her content as requested and she will not be mentioned again. I respect her wishes. We're still friends and we texted this morning about this very issue on what her boundaries were on selling content to make sure I was understanding correctly. At this point, I consider the matter closed. I have done what was asked of me. Despite the lack of direct communication, I will not engage further back and forth about an issue that has already been resolved. I want to be clear that I cannot be held legally liable when there was no direct communication to me revoking consent or requesting the removal of content. I was not acting out of malice. I was acting based on the information available to me at the time. Had I been directly informed that Gabby no longer wanted the content sold, I would have immediately honored the request, just as I did once it was brought to my attention. She did say that. But let's look at some older posts from the past. You can withdraw consent. Someone can always withdraw consent. You can't claim that getting consent in the first place meant you were allowed to do anything you want. This is not the hot take you think it is. You can revoke consent to share your body with someone if you end up not vibing well, in pleasure and in business. Clear communication goes a long way. I intentionally have boundaries around who I do and don't collab with as a preventative. Well, that's strange that she said this because she was also behind the scenes saying that one thing. Here she's saying, just a little salty that 6 months ago I was asking him to collab with me and he straight up turned me down because he viewed me as a bro friend. And now he's trying to collaborate with people. Not trying to sound like I'm not humble, but my following for what I do would have helped him immensely. And it's just kind of garbage that he gives himself the label of SW, but doesn't put the work in SW because he wouldn't have blank with me because we were friends. When I wasn't viewing it as a intimate encounter, I was viewing it as work collaboration. They respond, maybe he's looking for something specifically with people he feels comfortable doing that type of work with. Dana says, I kind of want to respond to it and be like, I'm still available, just to see what he says. Honestly, not that I'm even super interested anymore after his character development lately. If he's looking for something specific, he should state that what he's looking for. He should also feel comfortable doing SW with any workers that he has included in his close friend story. That's why they're on his close friend story to begin with. Right, so if you're on somebody's close friend story, that means that you would definitely be willing to engage with them in intimate acts. Quite the correlation. And again, you said this. You're going to revoke consent to share your body with someone if you don't end up vibing well. So that was what you were saying based on vibes. But I digress. Let's move forward. In this clip here, we have Dana outright telling Gabby she's not allowed to revoke consent because she's uncomfortable. Also, I still have legal paperwork from you. When you signed content release forms, you gave consent. You knew what you were doing and you participated. That doesn't disappear just because you're uncomfortable now. The user goes on to say, if you sign a bit of paper, Dana is allowed to do whatever they want to you, regardless of making you uncomfortable. How charming and not predatory at all. One user posting this picture that's Dana saying, delete your ex's inappropriate images. You no longer have permission to look at their exposed body. In this next situation, it's again Dana going after Gabby and one other person. They've had issues in the past for driving and being on the phone looking at the Reddit groups and the criticisms. So this here is a clip of Dana driving and being on the phone, actually videoing while she's driving. Somebody says, put your phone down when you drive. The actual video is just a meaningless ramble in response to stuff posted in the Snark group. But oh my God, stop using your phone while you drive. Another user, there's a loud bang at one point. Did they run over someone's foot again? And you won't be surprised, but she got in a wreck after this. And we know because she posted it online. One post says narcissist. It says, I'm sorry, but you just got in a car accident and you're actually recording yourself because you are serving face. You can tell by their expressions, they're looking at themselves thinking they look good in the video. That can't be normal, LOL. And yes, it does say no makeup, pulled out of the windshield, still serving face. And the second reason is because when she wrecked it, sent out emergency notifications to her ex-girlfriend, Gabby. In this post, it says Dana got in a crash. It's a picture of her in the ambulance. It says at 8:59 p.m. tonight, I got into a wreck. I'm okay. Everyone is okay. Some incredible people stopped and pulled me out of my truck through the windshield. I was on a small back road in my Freightliner M2 when one of the tires hit the rumble strips and the shoulder just a hair. This caused me to lose control of the truck, swerving over, correcting, and flipping onto the passenger side of the truck. Nobody else was involved or hit. My iPhone was in my pocket. I really do think it's strange that she felt the need to specify where her phone was. My iPhone was in my pocket and it did its job and alerted the emergency contacts that was involved in the crash, Eli and my ex, who I did not know was still an emergency contact. My iPhone also called 911 for me and I was transported to the local hospital by ambulance. I am incredibly banged up and will likely be out of work for a little bit, but this could have been so much worse. One user saying, do we think her phone was actually in her pocket or was she recording and texting and driving? I certainly hope she's telling the truth. Although I dislike Dana, I'm glad she's alright and I know it's easy to make simple mistakes while driving that can lead to bad accidents, but I feel as though she could have been very reckless to cause this. And there was a whole bunch of people that was speculating about this, you know, and with good reason, the fact that she was posting recordings where she was actually driving and on the phone. Well, her ex Gabby also speculated too. So this is a speculation here. Dana lies about everything. Was surprised if she was on her phone. No way she wasn't on her phone. Who want to bet they were on their phone? Somebody's raising their hands. And again, people were thinking this because she'd already been fired for this once. Okay. One post says, this is why people assume you were texting and driving. And before we go over this, she posted this. You guys don't understand. If you watched the first video I made about her, she has a habit of telling on herself by posting the things that she does. Check this out. What a win, trophy emoji. I was public about my last job, and at my last job, I made a mistake. I was texting and driving on the clock, and because I live a very public life, some people who were watching decided to report it to my employer. I ended up getting fired. That was really a low point for me. It was embarrassing, it was scary, and it felt like the end of the world at that moment. But looking back now, it was a push I didn't know I needed. That closed the door and led me straight to a new one. And now I have a job that's way better. I'm making more money, doing cooler things, and surrounded by people who value me. So to the people who tried to tear me down. So how in this post are you saying that this good thing happened and people reported you for driving and being on your phone, which is, they could have saved your life. And now you're saying that it was people tearing you down. So to the people who tried to tear me down, thank you. You unintentionally helped direct me towards something so much greater. Growth isn't always pretty, but it's always worth it. Hashtag Sinna Bunny. Who knows what her name is? So again, she said her phone was in her pocket and people didn't believe her, so she decided to address this. A rare exception to my I'm not responding to the haters or looking in my hate groups anymore rule, because this is actually insane that people need to be made aware that all snark groups on Reddit, not just mine, are insanely toxic, unsafe spaces and have literally driven people to unalive themselves. After I made this video, someone else is claiming I must be lying about my phone being in my pocket because if you're a woman or someone who wears women's clothing, you don't own pants that have pockets large enough to keep the phone in the pocket, especially comfortably while sitting down. I literally wear men's clothes to work every single night. I was wearing men's size medium sweatpants with pockets big enough to fit my Owala water bottle. My little phone fit in them just fine. Can y'all just be normal people and be like, dang, I don't like that, B, but I'm glad they ain't dead. Like, what the F? Why is this so hard? So as you can see, many people were talking about this, but she decided to zero in on the only 2 people that she personally knew, which highlights the fact that you should be wary of personally knowing this person. They're on Tinder. They're out to get you. Be careful. So here's some more doxing by Sinna Bunny themselves, saying, it's marked out here, but blank and blank are vile humans, and I will scream it from the rooftops. I don't give a F that I'm a villain in their stories. Nobody deserves this. I could have been offed last night. F them. Now, we are keeping in mind that we have the knowledge that they are on their phone while they're driving. Numerous occasions and evidences of this, which directly can put not only themselves in a position to lose their life, but other people on the street now in the world. And there were multiple people that were talking about this and speculating about this, so that this could be the case. Not just these 2. These just happen to be the 2 that she personally knows. This person here says, given that we made the group public for reading today, I have no doubt that they were on their phone catching up on this subreddit. To which Dana says, this is blank. That's doxing. Also known as a spicy clown. Gone clowning? Cowing? I don't know. She's the mod of my hate group. She used to be my friend. Today she suggested that I almost passed away in a wreck because I was on my phone and lurking in my hate group. I felt the need to message them, literally F these sociopaths humans. And on this one, this is Gabby here. Gabby saying, yo, I did not get a text or a call last night, so the ex who's an emergency contact isn't me. To which Saturn, Dana, Sinna Bunny, whoever they are, says, thank God. My first thought was obviously it was you, which would have been both uncomfortable and terrifying. To which Gabby says, I would have effing laughed and hung up. Dana says, additionally, I didn't realize my ex Gabby, and then doxed, and I'll covered that out, was listed as an emergency contact. It alerted her. She didn't get it because she had my number blocked, but she said with her whole chest, if she did get my emergency contact call text, she would have laughed and hung up. I could have been passed away. I could have been passed away in that crash, and this would have been the last text from my phone that they would have laughed. And this is interesting because I have the full context of the clips that she conveniently left out. We'll get to that. Spice Gone Clownin' says, I love how they conveniently left out the part where they told me if it happens to me, it'll be worse. Another user saying, I don't get why they think what you said is so bad. They have a history of being on their phone and driving, and have shown they need a paid app to stay away from the sub. Like, it's beyond plausible. Not like you said you hoped it happened or that it was worse. They're so butthurt that people who really see and know them are speaking out. So here's Dana to that person. I really hope you feel like the coolest, most high and mighty person alive running a snark subreddit where people are seriously suggesting I almost passed away in a crash because I was busy scrolling your little hate forum. That's deranged. The fact that you keep letting people post they must be on their phone when I've already said I wasn't, plus letting speculation fly about me being on illegal substances and losing my job is insane. You know what's even funnier? I'll gladly send you the dash cam footage of me wrecking my vehicle when I get access to it without a phone in my hand, and the hospital inappropriate substances test that came back squeaky clean because I am clean. I actually am interested in this, and I wanna see this. I hope they post it. So congratulations on hosting a corner of the internet where people invent entire narratives about me in the middle of a near terrible accident. Must feel powerful. Getting effing messages saying you should have passed away in that crash from a handful of people is just super. And I wouldn't wish what I just went through on you or anybody for that matter, no matter what. Can't wait to post Monday night me being back at work in my new truck because alas, I have a job and accidents happen. Literally F all the way off on this one. They said, it feels fantastic actually. Heart emoji. It says choke. They say ditto. Dana says, literally hope you never have to go through what I did. But if you do, it's worse. They say, I hope I do, and I hope I gain memory loss so I don't have to remember who you are. Follows up by saying, people speculating on stuff that you've done in the past before isn't breaking rules, by the way. If you post stuff constantly and you are a wannabe influencer, you're going to have people speculating about your entire life. This is very, very true. And Gabby's response was, I wouldn't set me as my own emergency contact because I never answer the phone. So this is a PSA. I might have medical knowledge, but I hate answering the phone. So don't even put me as your emergency contact unless you can text in your state of emergency. In response to Dana doxing them saying, could I have elaborated saying, hey, this does not mean I hope you pass away? Probably, but anyone with a normal brain would not take this as, I would have hoped they passed away and orphaned their child. Like, what the utter F? That's a fair assessment. And we also have Dana in the comment section doxing and going after their career. Says something that seems to be directed towards President Trump, and then says, I think people should know that someone in school to be a doctor would laugh and hang up on someone possibly being passed away. And then here's them doxing, absolutely. And then somebody saying, very weird to use Gabby's full first and last name. They said it's intentional. Don't F with me. Someone in school to be a doctor should not be publicly stating that she'd laugh at people in a medical emergency, and I hope this follows her. To which Gabby says here, not me being doxed online by Saturn, previously known as Dana, previously known as many other things. Because I said I would have laughed and hung up, finding out I'm an emergency contact a year later. Like, nowhere did I say I hope you pass away. Another user saying this, you do understand that the only reason people think you got in an accident because you were texting and driving is because you do it all the time. It's literally why you got fired. You're constantly filming videos while driving. To which Dana says, speculation is fine. I don't believe you think it's fine. Speaking like it's a fact when I've denied that being the truth is insane. It's not really that insane. She quotes what she thinks is right, saying, I hope they weren't texting, saying it's a solid response, and then demonstrating what the wrong response is. LOL, I just know they were texting, not a solid response. Oh my God. What? Yes, I have had an issue with texting and driving in the past and in my personal vehicle. Why did she even tell us that? I don't do it in my work van, and I'm on camera constantly as accountability. Why does she say these things? That should speak for itself, but people want to go, no, you were texting. And that's no longer light speculation on a person that puts their life online. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with them? So we noticed that she's trying to ruin her ex's life and their future career, but it doesn't stop there. So Gabby made this comment here. It says, literally told me they haven't seen a gynecologist or general practitioner since they gave birth, so I can confirm this. A user says, that's genuinely scary, bro. Does Tiny Human ever get checkups, referring to Dana's child? I can check to see if Tiny Human is caught up on vaccines, but only doctor's appointments. I remember Dana taking her when she was sick. And because Gabby said this, Dana reported her. Gabby saying, my actions have consequences no matter how deeply justified I believe they are to be, because Saturn, previously known as Dana, previously known as Sweetheart, EXO, and the host of others, ratted me out to my employer about the dumbest effing comment I made on Reddit, and I could lose my job because of this. I'm deleting this account by the end of the week, and I have deleted my Reddit account. And then at Saturn, I hope your piercings reject. Your pillow is never cold on either side. Oh, that's harsh, man. And that every future potential partner of yours realizes what a narcissist you are before they get with you. She says, next stop, restraining order. That's what I would do. Going on to say, I'm sorry for not responding recently to everyone's kind messages. Insta DMs give me anxiety, but certain someone by the name of Saturn, previously known as Dana, has again doxed me on a Facebook post that can't be reported on because it's limited to friends only. Full name and location, dude. What the actual F is wrong with them? Can anyone help me figure out legal actions I can take for them to shut the F up about me? Keep in mind that Dana only targeted people that she knew and had sensitive info about, okay? So be careful, this person is trying to get to know you on dating apps. She was also part of the far left that said disgusting things and jokes about Charlie Kirk and 9/11.
Today's the day. Happy 9/11 Eve. Make sure you leave milk and cookies out for George W. Bush tonight.
Hashtag 9/11, hashtag inside job. One user saying, so disrespectful to the 2,976 people who passed away and their families. Going on to say, for someone who lost it because people weren't so sympathetic about her little wreck and almost passing away, this is disgusting. One user saying, dude, I'm not even from the US and this post made me sick. Same here, I've never been to the US, but it was such an insensitive thing to say. Another saying, happy 9/11 Eve. Yeah, F yourself, Dana. Innocent people died. No wonder I hate you so much. You proved to me more and more why I should never have sympathy for you. Another saying, this is so ugly for a 32-year-old to say. Why would you even be okay saying this? Oh, it gets a lot worse. As you can see on this post, it says 4 comments. There was actually 8. Let's look. But before we read them, I want you to listen to what they said.
My entire For You page is people talking about Charlie Kirk right now. And I haven't seen anyone else talk about this, but the website Jezebel, which is like a feminist news outlet for anyone that doesn't know, 2 days ago, posted an article about them paying Etsy witches to put a curse on Charlie Kirk. Why is nobody talking about this? You can literally Google search it. It's a real news article. They literally had to like put a little extra description that says like, edit, this came out 2 days ago. We did not post this as like a joke after he got like, we didn't know. Y'all, don't underestimate the Etsy witches, okay? Karma was a real today, you know? The sacrifice, I guess, for the Second Amendment rights. Yeah, literally around and found out. That's how I feel about that.
All right, now let's get into the comments. This is the deleted discussions that were said. One user saying, mocking tragedy doesn't make you clever. It highlights just how we've lost our humanity. Death isn't an argument. It's a deeply painful event, especially for his family. His wife and young children were there. If you can't express even a shred of compassion, step aside. The rest of us won't let cruelty be the loudest voice. You are part of the problem. To which Dana says, by talking about Etsy witches, you think I'm mocking? This is a real news article. I'm talking about historical facts. See, she knows that this person's not talking about Etsy witches, right? Another user saying, you're a sick human being. I'm guessing you're the type of person to say, love everyone. Go get some help. You lost a follower. It doesn't matter your political views. That is sick. To which somebody says, it's not sick. He was sick. He's looking up at us now, to which she liked that joke. So this is a repulsive person. Many of you might know YouTuber Riley. I feel like I always get the name wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm also willing to believe that if she does get fired from her job, it's probably for insensitive comments like that. Or, I mean, it could be that they have video proof of her actually being on the phone. We'll see. So it's this YouTuber here, Riley Elena, and they had some run-ins with Sinna Bunny, Dana, whatever you want to call her, Saturn, Mars, Jupiter, I don't know. They had a run-in with them as well, where Dana thought it was a great idea to point out the self-harm scars of this person. Really bad. I messaged Repzilla in a similar fashion. If you don't know about that, then watch the first video. It's absolutely hilarious. I messaged Repzilla in a similar fashion, and unfortunately people thought that was me attempting to silence him. So I know it was you attempting to manipulate and try to get me not to make the video on you, okay? Everybody, no one was confused about that. So I assure you that it's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to be communicative with a person that is clearly going to talk about me regardless. I'm just trying to reach out an olive branch of sorts and offer clarification about details on any questions that you may have about me or things surrounding me. So misinformation about me, and especially my child, does not get out. I saw your question on YouTube, so I figured I would just message you. The main character, and they're talking about some sort of book that she wrote. I'm told it's a very cringy book. Maybe I'll make another video about it. I don't know. I don't know if there's any interest in that. Let me know. The main character is Calliope, which is both an organ instrument primarily used in circuses, but also the Greek goddess of music and lyric to pronounce the shorthand name. It is Cali, like Cali or like California. There's a popular character in it. I think Grey's Anatomy with this name, not copied. Probably copied. Not copied from this, I haven't seen it. I would also like to state that the book was a cringe piece of art that I made, and it was a very cathartic thing for me to do at the time, and I personally am proud of it, but I recognize that it is cringe, as are most dark romances. I don't know if you're familiar with anything that HD Carlton has done, but her stuff makes my stuff seem tame. I have no issue with you making a video poking fun at my book, and judging it critically on the quality of the writing and the content. My concern was that the book was not purchased, and you were violating copyright infringement, but you have since clarified that the book was purchased. And it's interesting that she's going to give a moral speech about copyright infringement when she has a whole entire store, which we've talked about this, that is full of copyright. It's theft, okay? It's theft. When you talked about the book in your video about me, you just said something along the lines of it being nasty, disgusting, vile, horrible, atrocious, gross book. Well, there's many synonyms for gross that you could possibly use, and this just came across as if you were a prude and don't like dark romances or haven't read one before, or it could just be because the book was gross. My book is appropriately trigger warned for the content that is in it. And then this is when she says this. Make no mistake, she doesn't say things like this for no reason. She knows exactly what she's doing. For someone that has very noticeable self-harm scars, so glad after doing some investigating to hear that is behind you. It's interesting to find you in a position of bullying others within known diagnosed similar mental health conditions. All of that aside, thank you for believing me, unlike everyone else, that the cops just didn't do their effing job, and thank you for your apology and the captions for using the wrong pronouns toward me. I do see that effort, and I do appreciate it greatly. Sure. I reached out to Riley and asked if she could give me an account of how she feels looking back in hindsight about this situation. Here's what she said. I said, do you care if I get a statement from you about how Dana's comments about your scars initially made you feel and your thoughts reflecting back on it? They said, honestly, I'm not super surprised. Dana tends to go for the low blows, lol. But I was still a bit shocked that they chose that. Scars, of all things. I said in my first video that we both shared the BPD diagnosis, so while I was able to understand their thought process impulse to attack, it was still very immature. I remember at the time feeling bad for them more than anything, that they couldn't control their impulses. Looking back, I still just feel sorry for them honestly. Too old to have not treated your condition and learned better self-control. Going on to say they did eventually apologize. After I exposed the screenshots, they received backlash. And I do appreciate that. And I said, well, apologizing after the fact is what they do. They said it sure is, LMAO. I said it's interesting to get an explanation on why they may do the things they do. I think it's obvious that some sort of diagnosis was involved, they say. I was not surprised, to be honest, when I found out it was BPD. As a person with BPD, LOL, I could recognize some of the behaviors, patterns, and symptoms. I wish they would focus more on their mental health than their snarkers or haters, LOL. It would do them a lot of good. I said 100. Now it's time to talk about the paddle scam arc, okay? Let's go back to my previous video again. Dana also runs a business where she makes paddles and sells them, although a lot of these appear to have trademark properties on them. I'm scared. Jesus Christ. Using logos without authorization for commercial products, especially adult-themed ones, can lead to serious legal troubles. Things like trademark infringement, copyright infringement, brand tarnishment, violation of licensing agreements, civil lawsuits and financial penalties, and platform bans and content removal. Got some Sailor Moon, some Lilo and Stitch here, Pokemon. So apparently they decided to take the store down, but the store's still up. They're also still selling the Sinna Bunny merch, which kind of goes against all the name changes, but I guess it's anything for money. One Reddit post saying, oh, you're in trouble, where a user says, when are you going to address the missing glutton for punishment orders? And another one saying, what happened to the glutton for punishment? Will you be refunding those who you've been scamming? Or will you continue to just block and keep their money? User says, seems once she changed her business account to a Rave account, you can see people haven't gotten their orders, and she stole their money for now. What a way to present yourself. Another saying, I'll give you to the end of today to provide proof of a refund being processed. No response, block will result in the following. I will be forwarding your personal info, address, shop, and all screenshotted messages, emails from myself, as well as others that have tried to reach out to you. All correspondence info will be sent to the Anti-Fraud Center in Canada as well as the States via FBI Internet Scams and the FTC. They are not playing around with this one. User said, I wonder if that's why they rebranded the shop Instagram to their new public account. Here's some of the alleged proof of scamming, some of the things that just don't add up and don't make sense. In a post that says proof of scamming, after much thought, Eli and I have decided to say goodbye to our small paddle business. This isn't easy. We've loved building this with you, but it's time for us to move on. We have just enough acrylic left to make about 35 more pieces. And once those are gone, we'll officially be closing. If you've been wanting one of our paddles, now is the time. We won't be restocking. All existing orders will absolutely still be fulfilled and shipped. You'll get your piece, we promise. But then somebody shows a DM where she says, I'm shipping our orders weekly. We work around 4-week turnaround and we'll be overwhelmed with over 300 last-minute farewell orders. Your order is coming. If you want a refund still instead of showing patience, my emails are open still. I thought you said you were only going to do 35 pieces. Actually, you said, we have just enough acrylic left to make about 35 more pieces. So how does that work out exactly? User says in their original post announcing the closure of the paddle shop over 2 months ago, they say that they only have enough material left to make 35 final pieces for the sale. However, a month later, they claim to have had over 300 last-minute orders. Why would they accept that many orders knowing they do not have the materials or the means to fulfill those orders? Why not just list the 35 slots you know you could fulfill and allow it to sell out? It's already been over 2 months since the sale, so hopefully people can still secure their refunds from this obvious scam. And yeah, it is looking like a scam. Somebody points out the quote, refund instead of showing patience. Emotionally blackmailing your customers is crazy. Another saying, 100% they just wanted to make as much money as possible with no intention to fulfill the orders and are hoping not many people are able to get chargebacks. I doubt they even considered doing this can get them in legal hot water. One person saying, oh, Dana Dana Christine, Sinna Bunny, hey, it's Saturn. That's funny. Now, the next part we're going to talk about is very important, but before we get to it, I have a thing to say. We're currently at 609 of 2,500 raised for this year's fundraiser. We do a fundraiser every year to help individuals in difficult situations. We have 103 days left, but if everybody right now was to put $1, and you do it like this, you go to donate, you can just go to other here on the selection and just put $1 like that. See that? Also, guys, the National Essay Hotline is 800-656-HOPE. Use it if you need it. Also consider smashing that subscribe button and helping us reach our next goals. Really appreciate it. Rep Squad, Best Squad. This next piece is very important for all you mothers out there because this person is trying or alleged to be trying to teach your children ways to safely do illegal substances. And this is not good. So in this post, she says, let's talk about harm reduction at music festivals. If you see me at a fest and you need Narcan or test strips, say hey, and I'll help you out. Otherwise, there's a lot of other options for most festivals, such as bunk police, dance safe, etc. And we'll talk about bunk police soon.
Hi, Festy Besties. Today I want to talk about substance safety at music festivals because the truth is people use substances at festivals, whether you like it or not. Some of us use occasionally, some regularly, and some not at all. But everyone deserves to come home safe and alive.
Listen very carefully to this.
This isn't about fear. This isn't a don't do drugs lecture. It's about harm reduction.
This harm reduction video is not about not doing drugs. Actually, she says that it's not about don't do drugs. This is very important because this is supposed to be a harm reduction video. But it sounds like a covert advocation to do drugs. It also links bunk police. And when I'm scrolling through here, I'm seeing the calm before the chaos. I'm looking at all these things. Harm reduction reminders. I don't see anything that says don't do illegal substances. Don't do things that will potentially hurt you. It says drug test kits save lives. So I have a big problem with this. Even this says drug safety HQ. It doesn't talk about not doing it. You want to talk about harm reduction? You should say these are dangerous substances. They can kill you. That's a pretty big deal. This is more of an advocation if I've ever seen it. And don't get me wrong, I have no issue with actual harm reduction. Like, people should know and be informed where they can get Narcan and things like this that will stop them if they ever happen to be in an unfortunate situation. This is advocating to use these substances, however. It's not saying don't do it. It's saying here's substances, if you do OD, you get to use this. Can you see the issue?
You never know when you're going to be at the corner one day and you see a homeless man having an opioid overdose. Keeping it in my car allows me to help people and keep people safe.
This is an is-ought problem, and I'll explain. Is statement. People are going to use drugs at raves anyway. Ought conclusion. Therefore, we should teach them how to do it safely. This is the classic naturalistic fallacy of Hume's is-ought gap. Just because something is happening doesn't mean it ought to be endorsed or supported. The logical mistake. They move from description, people do X, to prescription, we should support X without bridging justification. Harm reduction as a public health approach tries to reduce harm without necessarily endorsing behavior. But if the person is actively advocating or co-signing the illegal behavior, rather than just providing neutral safety info, that crosses into promotion, not just mitigation. Logically, it becomes an endorsement disguised as education, which is a category error. Education does not equal moral approval. By making the behavior seem safer, they can unintentionally increase participation, a phenomenon called moral hazard. This means their action could lead to more total harm, not less, undermining the very harm reduction claim they're making.
And don't mix stuff together unless you really know what you're doing. Festivals are not the place and time to be experimenting for the first time. Another tip is to write your emergency information either on your wristband or on a card that you put in your hydration pack. Make sure to time your doses. Just because you don't feel it yet doesn't mean it's not coming. Hydrate, eat, sleep. Inside of my hydration pack, I keep a substance safety pouch. That includes test strips, my Narcan, a bunk police test kit, electrolyte powder, snacks, protein bars, condoms, mints, and like I said, a note with my name, allergies, and emergency contact information on it, just in case.
Tips and tricks. I got one for you. How about you don't experiment because you could die? Narcan is not a permission slip. It's a last-ditch attempt to keep you from going into cardiac arrest, okay? Treating it like a safety net is the same as saying, I'll crash my car because ER will fix me. Clearly, this is not harm reduction. This is a death wish. I want everybody to take special attention to this because what she's doing right now is one very dangerous thing. If children happen across this, they're going to think that they're going to have all the tools to keep them alive and that they can do this stuff. This is really bad. Something else I wanted to go over was this really weird, just strange thing from the person, I think it's her boyfriend. She likes to say husband, but they're not married because she's actually still married to a predator, an alleged predator, okay? This post starts with, first, I'm going to stay anonymous, mostly because I don't want my life picked apart, nor do I want to be associated with Dana or Eli. I was friends with them for a couple years before the friend group split from them last year. I'll start with a little backstory. I used to have several pet rats that I adored. They were my babies, and I'd do anything for them. Unfortunately, rats only live a couple years, so I had to deal with the passing of them. My solution to having them with me forever was to bury them in a special Monstra plant that I bought just for this purpose. Once they have decomposed enough, I would dig them up and keep some of their bones. You can think I'm weird for this, but this was a way I could honor their lives and keep a part of them with me forever. Both the bones in my plant are very important to me. My babies gave life to that beautiful Monstra plant. When my last rat died, the Monstra was not doing great because I had to repot it so many times. I had 3 rats die basically back to back because they were all adopted the same age. Dana and Eli offered to help her thrive since they have so many plants and know all about plants. Yet another brag, obviously. Dana also offered to process the bones of my most recently passed rat, Gary, pictured because he deserves some love for what he went through. And there's Gary. Hey, little Gary. They've had this plant for several months now. When the friend group first broke up, Dana reached out offering to drop my plant and Gary off on my porch. Never did it. When I responded, Eli texted me October last year offering the same thing, just for that not to happen either. It started to feel like they were holding them hostage. Last week, I decided to finally be brave and grab them from their house. What I received was a dead plant pictured above and bones that still had fur and skin attached in a Ziploc bag with effing grass and dead leaves mixed in. Let's look at this. So here's the plant, not doing too hot. I'm going to be honest, at first I didn't think this was on purpose. I thought it was just a case of them bragging about being good at stuff that they're actually not. That being said, I cried myself all the way home thinking about my poor Monstra and Gary sitting in their house for so long. 20 minutes after I get home, I received this text from Eli. First thing I'd like to point out is that the last time he reached out, total of 2 times, the first being 2 weeks after our friend group split, was offering to bring my stuff and telling me how well my Monstra was doing. I asked him to drop it off and I never got a response. So his reaching out on multiple occasions claim is a effing reach at best and completely dismisses the actual context of those instances where I was asking for my stuff back. As for the more than friends claim, we went on a total of maybe 4 dates over the course of nearly 2 years. At the time, I was very clear that I was not looking for anything serious or even really dating. I knew he decided to listen around that part and made it a bigger deal than it was. I used to kind of feel pity for Eli, like he was sort of stuck with Dana and that's why he stayed. But you know what? They're absolutely deserving of each other. Neither of them have respect for the dead, or the living for that matter, and they're both obsessed with revenge and making points. More than anything, my heart is shattered thinking about my poor baby sitting on the house being neglected purposely. I didn't even want to bring them into my house after without cleansing their energy in some way. I debated posting this because I do feel bad for putting them both on blast for this, but they shouldn't have chose to kill what I love if they didn't want that. So hey, Dana and Eli, you know who I am. Sorry, not sorry at all. Grow up and act like effing parents you're supposed to be for tiny human. And what stood out to me the most in this was Eli reaching out and saying that he did this on purpose. I'm going to be honest with you, Finn. I let your plant die like you did our friendship. What? I stopped tending to your plant when it became clear that you preferred your relationships with people who openly despised us to the connection that we used to share. It has been close to 8 months since we've last spoken. In that time, you have only become closer to people who are still to this day actively spreading hate, lies, and baseless criminal accusations against us. It is impossible for me to understand how someone who claimed to care about us could stand by and silently support these unfair attacks without once speaking up or coming to our defense. You asked for space, and I have given you plenty. I've reached out to you on multiple occasions and afforded you ample opportunity to salvage our relationship, only to be postponed indefinitely. You don't reach out to see how I'm doing, only to see if I still have your stuff. You care more about those bones of a dead rat than you do about my feelings or well-being. Well, yeah. What the heck? I sincerely wish you the best and harbor no ill will against you other than the incredible disappointment I have to how this all played out. And then they say, yeah, I do care more about my dead babies than our relationship. I would not call it that. Didn't really need this text, by the way. I have eyes and I can see you stopped caring for it. Hope that made you feel good to kill the plant that my babies were a part of. Eli says friendships are relationships. And we were more than just friends, but it doesn't matter. I felt no joy in it at all, actually. I just wanted to give you an explanation. Do you guys see how sadistic that is? That's extremely sadistic. Like he's reaching out and he's saying, I did this on purpose because imagine if it was your cat or your dog and this person said something like this. This is essentially this similar type of construct here. Weird, okay? And I think that speaks into the type of individual that Eli is. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. This person, in my opinion, is dangerous and they keep adding to their locale story. I'm going to keep updating you because they are changing labels and identities to lie to you. This is beyond obvious, okay? I've never seen anything like this. One user asking Dane on TikTok, why do people dislike you so much? I've never been on Reddit personally, so I don't know how bad it gets. I 100% dislike bullying, though. I've always been there for the underdog. People are always just bullying others on here, like the Resilient Jenkins, for example. I always take up for them because people seem to think they're better than or whatever. I'm sorry you're going through this, Heart. Dana Saturn Sinna Bunny says, to keep it short, I have made some poor choices in the past. Some they fabricated, some they exaggerated, some are true. But they want to beat a dead horse. And nobody, what I have done, nobody deserves this kind of response to being in a near tragic situation. So listen, people are out there that mean you harm. Be careful, be safe. Send no harm or hate to this person, but do use your words to hold them accountable, okay? You guys have a good day. Rep Squad, best squad. Thank you to my patrons. Really appreciate it, each and every one of you. If you too want to become a patron, the link will be in the description. Thank you again.